Hello everyone, my name is GREGNESS, and I have quite a bit to talk about today, including my theories on Yarnaby and Dr. Harley Sawyer, and what I think we will see from them in Chapter 4. Also, I'll be taking a look at some of the new ARG updates, including the most recent ones, of course. I will also be looking at what the new grab hand could do, other new allies and enemies yet to be revealed, and what characters we will see returning. I'll also be sharing some interesting theories I have with you, and I'll be taking a look at each of the nightmare critters in a little more detail, and what roles I think each of them will play, and what I think their smiling critter counterparts could be. Also, I'll talk about something you may not have noticed about Bubba Chops. And finally, we know the game is supposed to release in January, so I want to share my prediction of the exact date I think the game will release. So I have a lot of thoughts, theories, speculations, and predictions to share with you today, so make sure you stick around the whole way through, as you won't want to miss anything. Okay, before we begin, I just wanted to say, I worked really hard on this video, so I would appreciate it if you can like, comment, and share it with everyone you know. And if you're new here, then please be sure to subscribe to the channel today, and be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Thank you so much. With that being said, grab your drink, sit back, and relax, and enjoy the video. Okay, so a few weeks ago, Mob Entertainment revealed to us Experiment 1166, Yarnaby. So who's Yarnaby? Yarnaby was a boy named Quinn Davidson. He liked to mix and match toys and dolls, so he would break off a head of one toy or doll and put it onto a completely different one. And in the horrifying trailer, which I think is Mob's best trailer yet, we got our first look at Yarnaby. Well, mainly the top half of his body. But now we know that Yarnaby's body appears to be that of a lion, and his face seems to be that of this rejected toy we saw in Chapter 2. So because Yarnaby has a lion's body, he will be extremely fast, which just thinking about that makes me poop myself. But I'll explain to you why later, so be sure to watch this video the whole way through. Also, what if Yarnaby can stitch back broken toys together? Like what if we see a return of the Hugmeister, this time taking on more of a Yarny form? Who knows? But it does seem that Yarnaby can do something like that. Alright guys, so hear me out here, but what if Chapter 4 has multiple antagonists? So like what if it's Yarnaby and Dr. Harley Sawyer? Or what if there's even more? Which from the recent ARGs, it seems to be the case. But for now, let's just say Harley Sawyer is one of the antagonists. Where is Dr. Harley Sawyer hiding? Maybe he's no longer human, but something else instead. Like he's an AI, and no longer actually has a human body. Maybe he has full control over the factory or the underground. And maybe he is the one who caused the elevator to malfunction, separating us from Poppy. If he is still alive, and has been deep underground all this time, how the hell has he survived for this long? Now, from what we saw in the trailer with the TV and camera, I believe that it's most likely Harley Sawyer watching us, and he uses the cameras to follow our every move. And he alerts Yarnaby of our current location, and I think that when the eye on the TV is purple, it means that Yarnaby is on his way to our location. And when it turns red, it means danger, and that we're in deep doo-doo. But yeah, it means we will encounter Yarnaby, and if he gets right on top of us, it will probably result in an instant death animation, or we'll have a few seconds to run like hell. Also, we hear music played just before we see Yarnaby in the trailer, so it could either be that Yarnaby has some kind of musical component in him that plays when he is near us, or it's Dr. Harley Sawyer playing it over speakers throughout the game, which is basically a warning to us. Or it could mean that music is what tells Yarnaby to attack us. After all, we know that Yarnaby looks at Harley Sawyer as his master, and is loyal to him like a dog. I think throughout the game there will be TVs placed around, all over the place. And when we see the eye go red and hear the music play, whether it's from the speakers or directly from Yarnaby, it will mean we're in big trouble. But maybe the TV isn't Harley Sawyer. Some people believe it could be Ollie. I mean, I personally always thought Ollie was a toy, as there's no way a kid could survive for so long in the factory. But what if the TV is actually Ollie? Maybe he's an AI. He always seems to know where we are, and knows everything about the factory. So maybe he is an AI, and helps us. So like with the TV, when the eye turns red, that's Ollie warning us of danger nearby. But then again, wouldn't he just call us on the phone? Unless we lose access to the phone at the start of the game. Or maybe because the phone ringing would give away our position. I don't know. But he definitely isn't human anymore, as his voice still sounds like a child 10 years later. So I still think it's most likely Harley Sawyer. But what do you guys think? I also have a theory that Poppy is actually Elliot Ludwig's daughter, but I guess only time will tell if I'm right or not. Okay, so here are some images found from the previous ARG. Again, we see Huggy, so I definitely think we will be seeing him again in Chapter 4. Okay, so if we look carefully at these documents here, you can see an outline of what looks to be a clown or jester. I've been saying I think we have more than one antagonist in Chapter 4, and I believe it's going to be Dr. Sawyer and Yarnaby, then there's the dinosaur which would make 3, and now this clown looking thing that would make 4. And And by the way, I've mentioned before that I hate clowns, so this would be my worst nightmare having an enemy like this in the game. And the circus, where all the evil clowns are hanging out. Seriously though, the playhouse looks like a circus. And just so you know, I don't like clowns, so I'm gonna really freak out if we run into any toy clowns. Alright, so if you gained access to the ARG website and sent a question to support@centraldomainaccess.net, you may have gotten a reply from Playtime IT. And if you take a look at the Poppy Playtime Discord server, you can find some interesting replies to some of the questions. Alright, so with the most recent ARG updates, Playtime Co started leaving head-scratching messages. And as always, the Poppy Playtime community came together to try and figure it all out. Okay, so here are some of the messages that were found on the ARG website. Basically, you could click on certain words and it would give you a whole new message with another word that you could click on to take you to yet another new message, and so on and so forth. And basically, you had to find out what secrets they were hiding. There was also this letter from Elliot Ludwig to Harley Sawyer, which was very interesting. Basically, Elliot Ludwig decided to kick Harley Sawyer out of the Young Geniuses program, which I'm sure Harley Sawyer wasn't happy about. Okay, so this image here says, "You were warned," and has what looks like a Dalek from Doctor Who. I wonder what it is. Maybe it's actually Dr. Sawyer. He may no longer have a human body and could possibly be inside this thing, like an AI, as I mentioned earlier. Who knows? But it would be pretty damn cool if I was right. Alright, so with this image, people on the Poppy Playtime Discord server managed to figure out what it says. So it translates to the baptism of fire. Now some people believe it is in relation to the theatre incident. Others think it could be the title of chapter 4. But let me know what you guys think this could possibly mean. I just see the word fire, and I think of the unannounced character that could actually be a dragon that breathes fire. Maybe it's a bigger body version of Simon Smoke. That would be pretty cool. But seriously, I have no idea. Anyways, someone also found a secret message hidden that has a line of text that says, "With regards, Sawyer," which is very interesting indeed. Kudos to the people that found this stuff. Okay, so there was also a recording of a conversation between Leif Pierre, Eddie Ridderman, Della Graeber, and Gerard Lockhart. Okay, so Leif says, "You know why we're all here. Let's skip the formalities." Eddie, "The cleanup. What's the progress?" Eddie says, "We'll be in the clear by the week's end." And it goes without saying, but word of this doesn't breathe beyond the factory's walls. Not that there's anything concrete. I made sure of that. Stella Graeber says, "Has Lockhart come forward with any information? Even the number of bodies?" "No, nothing yet. Those poor people. Did we really have to?" Leif says, "We did what was necessary, Miss Graeber." There's a pause. Of course. The real question here is, when we find who's responsible, whose mistake this is, what do we do with them? Oh, you mean after I've got my hands wrapped around their neck? I figured I'd just give it a nice squeeze until they stop squirming around. Sound like a plan? Leif, think rationally here. We need to... Then there's knocking on the door. Ugh. "If you like having your job, Sharon, beat it. We're busy." Gerard says, "It's me." "Oh, ahem. Step on in, Mr. Lockhart." Lockhart enters the room. "My constituents and I were just discussing some sensitive business. I'm afraid I'm here to complicate that matter." Lockhart sits down and then there's a long pause. "Well, don't leave us in suspense. What half-wit, soon-to-be dead man made this mistake?" Then Lockhart says, "Dr. Harley Sawyer." Okay, so are they talking about the theatre incident? It's definitely not the Hour of Joy, because they would have been killed like everyone else. Let me know what you guys think they're referring to. Alright, so the Chapter 4 ARG is now over. But it was so awesome to see the Poppy Playtime community come together to try and decipher clues and find hidden secrets. So, well done to everyone. Anyways, I believe that Chapter 4 will be the biggest and longest chapter so far. So it's very plausible that we will have multiple antagonists in this chapter, not just one. But Yarnaby and Dr. Sawyer will most likely be the main ones. But then again, who knows? Okay, so moving on, it seems that yet again we will be getting a new grab hand. This time a light blue one, as we can see here in the trailer. It seems more techy, so maybe we will need a specific grab pack that was only for certain Playtime Co employees, to have access to certain rooms or floors, etc. Or maybe we can use it to scan the environment for Playtime Co employees' handprints, which will then give us access to new areas in the game. What do you guys think? Alright, so we still have yet to see another new antagonist, which is the dinosaur that people call Pianosaurus. So it would be interesting to see its official name and design when Mob shares it with us. But if we look on the Chapter 4 Steam page, it is mentioned that we'll be encountering new characters and allies. So maybe Yarnaby, Dr. Harley Sawyer, the new dinosaur character, and this new clown looking thing are the 4 antagonists in the game. Yarnaby probably being the main one we see the most. And what's interesting is we will have new allies. I do have a theory of one of the nightmare critters being friendly, or more than one of them, but I'll get into that later on. But yeah, there's still probably characters that are yet to be revealed to us. both friendly and hostile, so we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, so for returning characters, it's a given that we'll be seeing Poppy, Ollie, and most likely Kissy Missy, if she hasn't been killed of course. I hope not though, and hopefully Poppy managed to help her somehow. Or maybe she had a new friend helping her, as I'm pretty sure Poppy alone couldn't have done much to help Kissy Missy, because of her size. So maybe a new ally came to save the day. Alright, moving on. There's a strong chance we may even see a return of Huggy Wuggy, that Yarnaby may have stitched back together. Or he may have even stitched back other toys we have encountered throughout the first 3 chapters. And also, we could very well see Boxy Boo make an appearance in chapter 4, which would be absolutely terrifying. Okay, so I personally believe, with this trailer, it's a strong indication that chapter 4 will have some sort of hide and seek mechanic, and we have to be stealthy. Now I've always said it would be a neat mechanic in the Poppy Playtime games. Let's transition back to a year ago. One thing I will say though, is I don't know about other people, but I always got the impression from the game's trailers that Catnap was going to be more like a stalker type enemy. Like I originally thought he was going to be more like Mr. X from the Resident Evil 2 remake, where he literally stalks you and would appear randomly throughout the game. And even though I hate being chased in horror games, because it makes me poop my pants, I thought that would have been so much more scarier. Like when we saw the VHS tape footage in the final trailer of the game, of Catnap stalking the person recording in the playhouse area. That would have actually been absolutely terrifying. Again, this chapter was really well done. And as I said before, there were some good jump scares in there, but I would have liked to see more of Catnap, especially because of how creepy and menacing he is, and the fact he was the main antagonist for chapter 3. But hey, maybe we'll get a stalker type antagonist in chapter 4. So yeah, as you just heard, at the end of my chapter 3 playthrough, I mentioned that I always thought Catnap would be a stalker type enemy, and chase us throughout chapter 3. Like as I said, Mr. X, or even the original nemesis from Resident Evil 3, where he can literally appear out of nowhere, shouting out his famous one-liner, "Stars!" And then he will continue to chase the player, and none of it was scripted, which made it truly horrifying. Stars. Nemi, what are you doing down there? Wow, you're much smaller in real life. Stars. It would definitely be an interesting game mechanic, especially in the Poppy Playtime series, and I was quite surprised when I found out that Catnap wasn't actually a stalker type enemy, and was mainly scripted. And even though I hate being chased in horror games, it would have made the chapter even more horrifying, and Catnap would have been the perfect stalker. So anyway, from the trailer and my theory on the TV and music, I think it's very possible that Yarnaby won't be scripted at all. Well, for the most part at least. And instead, he will move around the game randomly, just like in other horror games with stalker type enemies. Like Resident Evil and Alien Isolation for example. This would make the game much more terrifying. And this trailer was exactly that. And now you'll understand why if there is a hide and seek mechanic in chapter 4, having to run away and hide from Yarnaby, or any enemy for that matter, would definitely make me poop my pants. So would you like a hide and seek mechanic in future chapters? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, so in some of the ARG updates, there were some documents that revealed new information about unknown experiments. These experiments are numbered 1015, 1026, and 1160, which is said to be Boxy Boo. But we don't know what the other 2 are, but they do not seem to be bigger bodies and instead are smaller toys. Experiment 1160 seems to have been the first successful bigger body experiment. Okay, so over the past few weeks, Bob Entertainment has been sharing and revealing tons of chapter 4 goodness to us all, including the reveal of Yarnaby. But before Yarnaby was revealed, we were introduced to 8 new critters, dubbed as the Nightmare Critters, and I wanted to talk a bit more about them also today. Speaking of the Nightmare Critters, did you notice that we actually got our very first look at a Nightmare Critter in the Yarnaby trailer? I think most people thought it was Catnap. I actually did at first, but it's actually the Nightmare Critter, Poe. You can see Poe's lightning pendant swaying just before getting squashed by Yarnaby. Poor little Poe. Also, I believe that this is Poe's body that was placed here most likely by Yarnaby, shortly after he squashed Poe, as you can still see blood dripping from the body. So this makes sense to be Poe, but I suppose it can also be a Catnap critter. Either way, there's a freshly killed critter on top of the TV. Also, seeing Poe as a critter confirms that the Nightmare Critters will be small in size, just like the Smiling Critters. Okay guys, so I wanted to share some thoughts and speculations on each of the Guys, what's going on?
Hello there. Come closer, friend. Don't be shy. Can you do Huggy Wuggy a favor? Make sure you subscribe to my pal GREGNESS today, and I'll give you a big squeeze.
Alright, I'm back. I don't know what happened there, guys. That was weird. Thought I could hear a strange voice. That kinda sounded like Huggy Wuggy. Did you guys hear or see anything? Be sure to let me know in the comments. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I wanted to share some of my thoughts and speculations about the Nightmare Critters, and how we may encounter each of them in the game. and how exactly they will be a threat to us. Also, I wanted to share with you what I think their smiling critter counterparts could be. Anyways, I know everyone's pumped by the yarnaby reveal and all of the new ARG updates, but I wanted to take a look a little closer at the nightmare critters. I feel like they're getting overshadowed by all the ARG updates and the yarnaby reveal. So, let's show them some more love. Okay, so the nightmare critters seem like they would be much more hostile and aggressive towards us compared to the smiling critters from chapter 3. Their designs seem to be more aimed at teenagers instead of kids like the smiling critters were. Maybe the nightmare critters are some sort of limited edition version of the smiling critters. Like maybe they were made for the Halloween holiday season or something. Okay, so as we know, Playtime Co. released a line of smiling critter plushies, but the catnap toys were quickly recalled due to disturbing reports of children experiencing violent nightmares. A VHS tape titled Catnap Recall reveals that the toy emitted a strange gas, similar to the one it uses in chapter 3, which caused these nightmares. Also, I was thinking how out of all of the smiling critters, Catnap was the bad egg of the bunch, and obviously his bigger body was the main antagonist in chapter 3. So what if, with the nightmare critters, who appear to be much more darker and hostile, what if one of the 8 of them turns out to be good? So like, what if one of them end up wanting to help the player in the game? Kinda like how Kissy Missy was helping Poppy, and that time she opened that gate for us, for example. Hello, Kissy. Yes, can you do a switch for me? That's it, there you go. Oh, thank you. So maybe it's possible that one of the nightmare critters turn out to be good. Or maybe more. Who knows? It's just a thought I had. Anyways, I think that the nightmare critters were older kids when they were experimented on. So more the ages of teenagers. And maybe from the trauma of what Playtime Co. put these kids through, they all now have a very violent and malevolent nature. And they're angry for what Playtime Co. did to them. What happened to the nightmare critters seems to be much more darker and sinister compared to the smiling critters. Okay, so in my previous videos, I was wondering what the meaning of all of the nightmare critters pendants could be. Like sure, they could be just for show. But I personally believe each pendant, which is of different designs, symbolizes what kind of damage they could do to the player when you encounter them in chapter 4. So let's just say that the nightmare critters pendants do actually mean that the 8 of them do have a unique special ability. Here's what they could be. So Icky Licky's biohazard pendant. It's gotta mean that he'll do some sort of toxic damage to the player. Maybe he will spit poison at us, which inflicts a poison effect status to us, and we have to find aid to stop the poison depleting our health completely. Or what about Raby Baby? She has a blood drop pendant, so maybe she could sink her fangs into the player, causing a bleeding effect, which again, we would need to seek aid. Okay, so I'm wondering if anyone else noticed this, but if you look at Bubba Chop's bio card, her name is in a bright purple color, whereas the other 7 critters' names match the color of their designs. So you would have thought that Bubba Chop's name would be in white, but the color is in between Raby Baby's pink and Poe's purple. Why is that, I wonder? Or maybe it's nothing. But what if it does mean something? What do you guys think? Okay, so with the nightmare critters, they will most likely have small appearances in the game, similar to how the smiling critters did in chapter 3, where they only showed up in the playhouse section of the game. Let's go through here, guys. Hopefully they're not in here. Ah! They're all away! But maybe in chapter 4, the nightmare critters will also make a similar appearance to that of the smiling critters. So maybe we will see each of them appear in different smaller sections of the game, playing a bigger role than their smiling critter counterparts, but still only playing a small role compared to other horrors that may await us in chapter 4. So like for instance, Tui could appear in a sewer-like section of the game, or even Alistair Gator or Maggie Mako for that matter. So we would need to avoid the water, and maybe we use the grab pack to pick up things, like boxes to create a safe path for us to move forward. And maybe there's a section with obstacles in our way, so like maybe we enter a room that's blazing with fire, for example, and we have to try and figure out a way to get through it without getting burned alive, because that would be very bad. Or maybe the nightmare critters will do things like, as I mentioned before, with Icky Licky, he may be able to spit poison at us from a distance. Or like Simon Smoke, he may be able to breathe fire, or shoot fireballs at us. Or maybe they will just jump at us, and claw our faces off, similar to what the smiling critters did to us, resulting in instant death to the player. As of right now, we just don't know, so we can only speculate. Okay, so let's have a look at the nightmare critters in a little bit more detail. So let's start off with Bubba Chops, and then we can speculate more about her. Bubba Chops is the black sheep of the bunch. Bubba prefers to keep her space, like a lot of space. Too much space. She can be distant, quiet, low energy, and it usually requires a lot of coaxing to get her out of the house. Luckily for her, she has some very persistent friends. She usually perks up after a while, but the next day, we're right back to the same tune. So her scent is anise, and you either love the smell or hate it. It has a very similar smell to licorice. So if you're a fan, You will love smelling Bubba Chops. So anyways, from Bubba Chops' bio card, it mentions that she is the black sheep of the bunch, which fits her name perfectly, because well, she's an actual sheep, and she is shy and keeps to herself. From what we have seen of Bubba Chops in the trailer, she will probably blend in with the surroundings. So exactly how she was seen in the trailer, laying next to dead toys, she will probably do similar things in the actual game, just laying there, completely still, watching, waiting, ready to ambush us, like she did to poor little Dog Day. Speaking of Dog Day, Bubba Chops seems to be the opposite of Dog Day. Where Dog Day is an extrovert, he's outgoing and confident, and the leader to the smiling critters. Bubba Chops, on the other hand, is an introvert, kinda like me. She's more quiet and reserved, a bit of a lone wolf, so to speak. Yes, I know she isn't an actual wolf, but you catch my drift. She prefers to be alone. Also, it's worth mentioning that Bubba Chops attacks Dog Day in the trailer. So yeah, I think Bubba Chops would be the equivalent to Dog Day. Some also may say catnap. But anyways, let's move on to Icky Licky. Icky's the type of kid to fall behind in a relay race and immediately pin it on a sore knee, even when that's not the case. He's the very definition of a poor sport. Even though he's naturally talented, he's constantly challenging everyone on absolutely everything, and usually without the outcome he expects. Don't worry, he has an excuse ready. So Icky Licky is a frog, and is the sore loser out of the gang. So if the Nightmare Critters do have more of a role in Chapter 4, and not just crawling around following you like the Smiling Critters did, maybe each of them will challenge a player at some point in the game. So maybe Icky, being a sore loser, sets up some kind of obstacle course for us, similar to the Pugapilla section in Chapter 2. And maybe we have to race through it and beat him. And then Icky Licky gets angry because he lost, and becomes more hostile towards the player. Maybe as we progress, we will encounter him again, and he will set up another obstacle race for us. But this time, it's much harder. What do you guys think about that? Okay, so Icky's scent is coffee, and we all know what coffee smells like. So Icky Licky appears to be the opposite to Kickin' Chicken. While Kickin' Chicken is the cool one out of the Smiling Critters, and yes, I know that Simon Smoke is the cool guy out of the Nightmare Critters, but I think Icky Licky is actually more like Kickin' Chicken. Kickin' Chicken is always raring to go, and if he gets knocked down, he'll get up again. He is more athletic compared to Icky Licky, and is also a good sport even if he loses. But Icky Licky, on the other hand, is a bad sport, and he's a sore loser. So when he loses at something, like a race, he will always make up an excuse. Okay, let's move on to the next critter. The super adorable Raby Baby. She is one of my favorite Nightmare Critters. Just look at her, she's so cute. I could just eat her up. Okay, Raby Baby couldn't keep a secret if her life depended on it. If there's one thing in the world she loves, it's gossiping, and she's very practiced at it. She has no concept of privacy or boundaries, and if she's in the room, you can bet she's eavesdropping on someone. Don't worry, if she ever runs out of juicy secrets to talk about, she'll just make some up. Okay, so Raby Baby is a bat, and as we can see from her bio card, Raby Baby is a gossip and an eavesdropper. She may be able to listen in on our conversations with Poppy, or even our phone conversations with Ollie, or conversations with someone new for that matter. Who knows? Because I sure don't. She also may be able to help enemies find us, and give away our position. And her scent is bubblegum. I love the smell of bubblegum, but I think it has more of a meaning for Raby Baby. So, like I mentioned, Raby Baby is a bat, and bats cling to things, like ceilings, and bubblegum is sticky, so she could very well cause the player to become stuck, like how spiders trap their prey in their webs, with the trapped insect hopelessly trying to break free, but the spider soon devours them. So bats are smart creatures. They can navigate using echolocation, also known as sonar. This allows them to move around in the dark, so they can navigate, hunt, identify their friends or enemies, and avoid obstacles. While bats primarily use sonar to get about and locate food, they can also use their sonar in a hostile way. So while Raby Baby is adorable, I can see her also being a big nuisance to us. And I also think that Raby Baby is like Bubba Bubbaphant. Bubba Bubbaphant is the smart one out of the Smiling Critters. He is bright and attentive, and we know that elephants are considered to be very intelligent animals. And as I mentioned before, bats are also intelligent animals with remarkable abilities. But the difference is, Raby Baby is a gossip girl, and she will spread stuff that isn't true, unlike Bubba Bubbaphant. Okay, next up is Alistair Gator. Alistair's an all-round lazy guy. He's chill, sure, but if he could, he'll spend all day in the water doing pretty much nothing. He isn't a fan of the whole put in effort and see that effort rewarded bit. He's much more a believer of the philosophy, good things have to come to me, eventually. I just need to wait around for. He's still waiting. So Alistair is an alligator, and he is the more laid-back, lazy one out of the group. And he is the complete opposite to Hoppy Hopscotch. Hoppy wants to always hop about. She is very energetic and loud. And if you're falling behind, she will be right by your side. She is the friend that everyone needs. While Alistair Gator, on the other hand, is more chilled out and wants to do nothing. He literally is just a lazy guy. Okay, so Alistair Gator's scent is sandalwood, which has been described as smelling woody, creamy, and earthy. Okay, up next is the cool popular critter out of the group, Simon Smoke. Seriously, Simon, stop smoking. Simon Smoke knows he's cool and popular, and he makes sure nobody ever forgets it, whether showing off for friends or just bragging about one of his accomplishments. It's always a popularity contest with him. Almost always he wins. In truth, he's a colossal jerk, but he does have a knack for getting away with being one. Unfortunately, I know quite a few people who fit this bio card to a T, and it's far from cool. Okay, so I believe Simon Smoke is the opposite of Crafty Corn. Crafty Corn is quite shy and timid, and she also scares easily. As we saw from the Smiling Critter cartoon, when the tree branch breaks, she's the only critter that screams and cowers under her blanket. Simon Smoke, on the other hand, is Mr. Popular and oozes confidence. He fears nothing. It's also worth noting that both Crafty Corn and Simon Smoke are not real animals, but mythical creatures. Simon Smoke's scent is wood smoke, which has a distinctive smoky aroma. Okay, moving on to the next critter, our little feathered friend Poe. Poe hates the sun and thinks it's a cruel trick of nature that the world needs it in the first place. Most comfortable in the dark, they spend their nights hanging around graveyards, listening to music and feeling vaguely angry at nothing in particular. They insist it isn't a phase. Now, my guess is that Poe is the opposite of Bobby Bearhug. Bobby Bearhug shows everyone love and compassion, and she is very cheerful and happy. Poe, on the other hand, seems to be angry and hates everything. And they are obsessed with death, as one of their pastimes is hanging around graveyards at night. Poe's scent is cinnamon, which is described as smelling warm, spicy, and sweet. Okay, next up is our friend Hawk Tui. Sorry guys, I couldn't help myself. But seriously though, if Tui was an actual hawk critter, that would have been absolutely hilarious. Okay, so let's read Tui's bio card. Tui, it's pronounced Tui, is a self-proclaimed trash rodent. When he's not busy eating and collecting garbage, he's a lively conversationalist. He talks a lot, which is made all the more surprising by him having shockingly little to say. If you ever need someone to provide insightful commentary or some random piece of junk, Tui is your guy. Okay, so I think Tui is probably opposite to Catnap. Where Catnap was silent, Tui just doesn't shut up. Alright, so Tui's scent is petrichor, which smells like rain. Okay, so last up is Maggie Mako. Maggie is always thinking about her belly. She's happiest with food in her mouth. And believe us, she's not picky. She loves sweets, but veggies, yuck. Don't be surprised if she takes your health eating habits advice with a dabble of sugar, some chocolate syrup, whipped cream, and a big cherry on top, all while laughing at you profusely. Maggie is the complete opposite to Picky Piggy, where Picky Piggy is a health freak and encourages all her friends to eat healthy too. Her diet is very good for the body. Maggie, on the other hand, prefers to eat sweets and cakes and all kinds of junk food. So her diet is very bad for the body. And her scent is chocolate, which smells like chocolate. But with Picky Picky's scent, which is citrus, citrus is good for you and smells more fresh, zesty, and uplifting. Chocolate is more of the opposite and should only be eaten in moderation, as too much is not good at all. The scents of the smiling critters are more positive compared to the nightmare critter ones. Like for example, Simon Smoke's scent, which is wood smoke, but wood smoke can contain many toxic chemicals and can be dangerous to your health. Whereas Bobby Bearhug's scent, which is a rose, has positive effects to the mind and body, like relaxation and reducing stress. That's just a couple of benefits that roses have, like many other flowers do. So yeah, where the scents of the smiling critters had more positive effects to the mind and body, the nightmare critters' scents have a more negative effect. Okay, so it'd be interesting to find out if we'll be seeing bigger body versions of any of the nightmare critters. In chapter 3 we saw Dog Day, or half of him. And of course we had Catnap. There's obviously something in here with me. Ah! It's Catnap! So I wonder if we'll see any of the Nightmare Critters bigger body versions in chapter 4. What do you guys think? Alright, so that was a closer look at the Nightmare Critters and some theories I had about them. Whether they will actually have unique abilities remains to be seen, as they may just do exactly what the Smiling Critters did, which was crawl around following you, and if they got too close, it resulted in an instant death animation. I would like to actually see them do more than that, and be much more of a threat, but we'll find out soon enough. Alright guys, so if Mob Entertainment are still on track for releasing chapter 4 in January, then my prediction is the 28th. And with the ARG finished now, can we expect the very first gameplay trailer? Or do you think we'll get another cinematic trailer first? Let me know in the comments. And as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts, opinions, theories, and predictions. So leave your comments down below. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please leave it a like and share it with all your friends. I worked really hard on it, so I'd greatly appreciate your support. And if you're new here, welcome. please be sure to subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn notifications on so you never miss a new video. With that being said, my name is GREGNESS, and I hope you have an awesome day. Take care, and bye for now.
His name is Huggy, Huggy Wuggy. When he hugs you, he'll never stop. Your friend Huggy, Huggy Wuggy, he'll squeeze you until